get hired.
Okay.
They're transported.
About that.
And to be properly insured and
Yeah.
so that's insured in Minnesota too. This is someone who's insured in their home state. What I found out.
That's what costs. We all this, yeah. I'm sure it's not.
Insurance.
Practice. You can't do that. That would be a thing. There it is. See, I should have.
Eighty-three is the next day, yes. Well, now on the 2nd of February, it's supposed to be up at the cities. Better talk to Chris and see if, because I'm only in the top browse ditches. If we do those ditches first and I can get out, I can still. be
Yeah,
together
it took like,
till
I
10.
don't know, I shut it down. turned
And
it
if I'm
down,
late,
3 or
I'm
4
late.
tries.
Yeah.
And then did you get on there after that, or did I get to something?
6 hours.
He was able to get out.
Yeah.
He messed with it.
Yeah.
Cause he.
If they have to make sure they don't mess up.
What do you do?
What's it?
You're out?
No, go ahead. Was there any major problems last Friday and all that shitty weather?
Just one motor vehicle accident by Farm America. Otherwise, we had numerous vehicles off road because of visibility.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of
Well, down close to you. Yeah, one was in the ditch at 330th.
but it's amazing.
But we got lucky,
Yeah,
very fortunate,
more.
because you couldn't see.
Oh my God, it's terrible. Yeah,
I'll try.
Yeah.
Tyler, you were so
There we go, mine.
he was in the ditch with the kids in the minivan. So Dan puts the tractor out of the shed, goes down, goes trying to drug him right down the road, ditching up his driveway, never went back on the road.
That's probably safer. Harder on the van.
so that was the van down there by the,
No, that was a different one, little white minivan.
okay, that was the van too.
Crazy.
I think so. No. Are we ready?
Yes.
I think it's great. All right, we'll call a work session to order. If everyone would like to silence their cell phones and start with pledging allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our topic this morning is the sheriff salary data and metrics. Dee and I met with the sheriff again last Friday. Talked about the events of previous meeting and talked a lot about the department, different things, maybe what we kind of got, what I felt like we got out of it is we need to have more transparency between that department and the board. Whether that's through committee work or like what we do for, we've got a slot in our board meetings for HR, we got a slot for community development. Maybe we have a sheriff update a little more often than we do now. So, and then also we decided that coming forward today, if there was anything that would help the rest of the board to ask the sheriff or something, the sheriff would like to get in front of us and just give us your thoughts or whatever, just a little more discussion before we move into the meeting itself. So there anything else that we as a committee should bring up from like last Friday or reiterate, where we come up with
Well,
numbers or?
I think we still need to, we need to say again that, we do have comparables. We should consider those comparables. And, and then make sure that other questions are answered. And, yeah, I think some of our conclusion really was, that, there hasn't been enough communication between the board and the sheriff, not for anybody's fault, but just we need to be more purposeful about that. Our law enforcement subcommittee needs to be more engaged over there. We need to make sure that we're making time for that. And I know that because traditionally that meeting has been before a board meeting, but we've been having a lot of work sessions that alone has been some of the wrench in the works. So from both sides, we gotta figure that out. That will help us feel like the resources that we're sending that direction, that we know what's happening and that we have the information we need. Personally, I also think that's really, really important as we come into this this building. There's going to be a lot of details that we need to be on top of. And that's going to take a lot of partnership with all our department heads, not just with the sheriff, but particularly our department heads that will be changing operations. And so, got to be engaged there. And so that's what the work session is about, just a chance to have some of those discussions before we talk about separating it.
Bill? Yeah, I guess I'd like to hear from the sheriff, if you wouldn't mind. I'm sure you've heard the same thing reiterated by some of the board members in past conversations. I guess, how is your department doing?
Morning, yes, I met with Labor Committee. We discussed the department and how things are going, and they asked for more transparency between all involved, and so everybody knows what's going on. And I have no problems doing that. I think it's good to have that communication flowing in both directions. And as far as the year in review, things are going well. The sheriff's office was for the most part fully staffed, and then we do have an opening in our dispatch, but we're have a young group that's learning as they go, and we're supporting them along with all of you supporting them, and to get the experience and knowledge and have the training and equipment that they do. So we're taking care of business, and we're doing it in a professional and efficient way.
What changes do you think need to happen with staffing?
We need to continue to give them the training that they need and the guidance that they need to do their jobs successfully and efficiently. And so their jobs will be evaluated with performance evals, and we'll focus on their strengths and also their weaknesses and how each and every one of them can improve.
I think it's important. And you guys will have to stop me if I'm saying something I shouldn't say. But, you know, there was an event that happened last Tuesday, and we addressed it with the sheriff. We talked about it as far as transport. And I guess I'd like you to tell the board what you told us, you know, as far as transporting two inmates and that type of thing, that's not, it's not common, but it's not uncommon, and type of a thing. And how you feel about that, you know?
Yeah, there was a question that was asked about transporting more than one individual at one time in a squad car. As you mentioned, it's not common, but it's not uncommon. It's something that's happened before. And we transport people in situations like that for efficiency. The stars have to align where two inmates have to be at the same facility at the same time and be prepared to be released at the same time for that to happen. So it's not a statistically, I can't tell you how often it happens, but it does happen from time to time. Other agencies throughout the state of Minnesota and other locations do transports of more than one inmate at the same time. That's why there's available 2 seats in the back of a squad. That's why there's transport vans, because it's not uncommon that it happens. They're in a secure environment, getting shackled, secure detention center. For example, last week, or any facility, they're in a secure environment, in a jail, getting handcuffed, shackled, belly chained, whatever is the most appropriate. They get locked into a secure squad car inside of a secure sally port. They get transported to another facility, which was our facility. And then that's where they get released from their squad in the presence of another jailer or two. And all while being handcuffed in a secure detention facility. So you look at who the individuals are, what their crimes are, the distance being traveled, all those circumstances come into play of what the security risk is, what the liability risk is, and the efficiency of it. So,
Thank you.
and it's also something that we've done from our jail to the courthouse, the court before. Is this something we want to do all the time? No, but we have taken more than one inmate for years from our jail to the courthouse, to the courtroom. So again, it's not uncommon, but it's things that does happen in Waseca County. It happens in other counties.
And so then we did talk about, you know, as we move into the new facility and we'll be ending up doing more transporting. There'll either have to be policy. I don't know if we want to go as far as policy, but at least, I don't know,
There will be discussion on how
training or.
how best procedure, how best to conduct business.
Yeah.
You know, business operational will be different moving forward. And how we've done business in the past is not likely how we'll do business moving forward. And how the layout is will determine how that operational plan is laid out. Go ahead.
Thanks for bringing up the policy piece, because we've talked policy a couple different times. And I have concerns that we have the idea that policy is handcuffs that keep us from being flexible in our job. And we have a lot of policies within the county and across different departments. And I really want us to think about policy as something that outlines best practices so that every decision isn't a brand new decision. When we have good policy, we know how we're supposed to usually do it. And that doesn't mean that we can't do it different. If we have a good reason, if there's circumstances, we should absolutely think about that and do it different. But best policy means we're not making the same decision over and over and over again. Under normal circumstances, this is just the way we do it. Policy tells us that, and then it doesn't mindlessly, it purposefully limits the amount of decisions we need to make. Because we know what best practice is and we do it. And I have concerns if we think about policy in any other way. Now, if I'm wrong about how I'm interpreting that, I would welcome that. But in every leadership course I've taken, the importance of having good policy, that's the oil to the machine. That means that you aren't getting asked 8 million questions that you've already gotten asked, that Doug isn't, that our sergeants aren't. It means that Tammy doesn't get 1 million questions that already we should know how to do that. And we need that good policy in every department. Not just the sheriff's department, every department needs good policy because that's how you ensure that you are routinely following best practices. I don't want to handcuff any of our leaders in the organization to make the decisions they need to make. But I also want us to be efficient, and good policy makes us efficient. It does not handcuff us. Speaking of which, I think you dropped yours over there. I think they're by the chair.
That's my phone and stuff. I have my handcuffs on me.
Something's on the ground over there.
Yes.
We've had this discussion, Jay, and I know you've had some reluctance to develop policy. And you're in charge of your own department. But I really want us to think about across the county, the place that good basic policy plays in how we can be more efficient, how we can take less off the plate of our leaders, because we've got policy, we've trained staff in it, and they know what to do. And then if something isn't, they always have the right to say, should we do something different in this instance? Because if in this instance we had a policy that said, here are the reasons why we transport more than one person at a time, then it's not an issue. And that doesn't mean that we can't ask questions about it, but it does mean that some questions are already answered. And so going forward, I want us to think about that, and not, as I said, for you, but across the organization. Thanks.
Thank you.
There is a difference when you're doing policies and guidelines. There's actual difference. It's your procedural and your policies. The problem with law enforcement is post board runs some of those policies that are mandated, and it's how you use the word shall and should
And may.
and may on certain things.
Absolutely.
Guidelines, I like guidelines because it gives you a leeway one way or the other, how you can handle different situations, but you definitely need policies on certain things. That's why we have Lexipol, because Lexipol takes care of some of our the mandates, not only by post board, but some of the as the courts change different rulings, those change with that Lexipol policy. So that keeps them guys out of trouble, the law enforcement I shouldn't say guys, law enforcement out of trouble for the most part. So when it comes to certain things like that, you really, there was times where you do the policy and then, well, we had an incident, maybe we should change this a little bit so we can do it. And a lot of times that goes in an email, and maybe it's not so much a guideline, but this is kind of a directive for right now how we're going to do it. But trying to keep shall and should out of that. as much as you can, because that gives leadership a better tool that they can make adjustments unless they see something that changes that. They have to put it, oh, this is bad, we can't have that, that should be a shall. So, I think that's, I just not gonna kind of. It's, when you're the sheriff, you're dealing with a lot of things that happen. And it's multiple areas, not just road deputies. You're dealing with public dispatch, jail, courts. There's a lot of tools and branches that go on. Sometimes you can't always cover all of them. Like, sometimes you have individuals that just, that's under his control, that want to do things their own way. You have to try to reel some of that in. It's difficult at times. But you have to do it. That's the thing. You have to be again, bring money your way and say, hey. And I like the idea of meeting with law enforcement more often coming here.
Questions? We also, we talked a lot about the process of the department and some concerns that us two felt were a concern of the board. And, I thought it was a good meeting. Like we always say, good meeting. But as far as giving even the sheriff some ideas on how to address some of those issues that are of concern, but is there any other questions here from the sheriff? Go ahead.
Jay and I had a conversation yesterday. We covered a lot of things. The one thing that I thought would be a good tool for him was using HR a little more. You know, when I first became sheriff, we didn't have an HR, and the sheriff at that time we had to deal with everything on top of it. There's a lot of tools I think HR can come up with to help address things that pop up in front of them quite often.
Sure. At least it's another sounding board for him to go to if he gets a situation that he's not sure of. That would be the go-to place.
What would I say? Like, can you pull up the like data in surrounding counties? Yeah. For population and pay? Please. Yeah. Just give me one moment.
So.
Other safe things that would try to pop up too.
Jay, did you see that Walmart incident on the shop? Look at the guy pulled it on the cop.
I did not.
You should take a look at that if you get an opportunity. Emphasize pat downs.
Where was that at?
I don't know where it was. They showed it on Walmart.
Southern state.
One of the, yeah, one of the stars.
Take a look at that today.
spread was just a surprise.
Oh, yeah, shrink it so you can see. Or, yeah, scroll down, there you go, yeah.
On here?
There, yeah, that's it. That what you want to see?
Are you wanting it sorted by population or something?
That's over on the side, on the right-hand side too.
Comparable counties.
Be the pink, the 155.
Oh, they're talking about.
Orange is the population.
37, 868, 04.
And then, you know, that's 25 data.
Yes. I have updated the 2026, column J. Anytime I'm hearing 2026 data, I could populate it.
And what was current pay?
130.
His current pay 133.
It's gonna be extreme.
What happened between? No,
There is no in between.
no, between.
No in between.
Melissa, you said you updated as you hear. So that was
The far column. Yeah.
no. If I could, and I believe, Jay, that your initial ask wasn't the 169 that's on that sheet. I believe it was 164, 390. To my understanding, you came in with this 156 as your District 6 sheriff average, and then 5% over that. I think that's the way it was, yeah.
Yep. And I think that may have been shared with you, the District 6 average.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got that here, and that was 156.
for 2025.
So as far as transparency, you know, I think I kind of said that at the meeting on Tuesday, but we had started off with if you do look at the averages, J is on the lower side of those averages. And that's where our initial recommendation was 7%, you know, thinking the 5% is just normal increase and then the 2% would help get us closer to that average. And then through some negotiations with Jay, then we brought it up a little more. So that's just the history of the conversation, I guess. And I know averages are averages, and you gotta have, you know, the only way you get an average is to have highs and lows. So you gotta take them with a grain of salt too, as far as where is the right salary for Waseca County. You gotta go by something.
Chair.
Yeah.
Question for Michael, the math guy. Would we be better off looking at medians instead of averages? I know it can be a horse of a piece for different reasons.
No, I mean, it's not any more convincing of an argument if you're looking at just the population.
like the comparable populations.
Yep.
Median is good for some studies
Yeah,
in our predictable range, but
Yes.
these aren't predictable ranges.
thank you.
So if you try to throw that on your traditional bell curve,
It will
it'll
help.
also be askew.
Thank you. I needed to hear that from somebody who laughs a lot.
Did the personnel committee, did you guys go on 2 or 3 years with the county attorney? Did you figure that out for next year already? Did you say it was 5% again? And was that agreed upon, or you're still gonna negotiate next year?
We will certainly negotiate next year, but we
That was,
gave a pretty strong indication that we would be considering.
it's not in writing, it's not contracted or anything, but it was talked about, yes. Oh, she's reelected. Never know. Thoughts from board? Anyone? Otherwise, no, I don't wanna make Jay stand.
No.
Good up there. Huh?
That's good.
So, Mr. Chair, will we be negotiating the sheriffs again next year or not? Yes. Yes. It's annually, we're going to. So there could be a stair stepping process also for the sheriff's salary. Right. You did a percentage this year, percentage next year. Okay.
We've often had the discussion that predictability is helpful, when it comes to our levy, when it comes to salaries for all our employees, that if they know what's coming, good, bad, or indifferent, at least they know what's coming. That's one of the things that makes setting electeds' salaries a little more tricky, is by statute, it's year to year. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't have some of those discussions about some predictability going into the future and some expectations. And quite frankly, those get set when we have good communication and when we are, regularly seeing each other's work and those kind of things. So
I don't know. Yeah. What's gonna happen a few years from now, we've taken these salaries from, since I've been on the board, to just stretching over 100,000 to now we're talking 150,000 in just 8 years, and to no fault of the sheriff or anybody, it's countrywide or statewide. And you gotta wonder at some point, they're gonna have to slow down, but I don't know how that can happen.
Brown County's not in our district anymore. I'm going by your District 6 sheet here. It should be only, because you're missing Olmsted County and you're missing, Waseca County. Brown County is not in our District 6 sheriffs. There's 2 counties missing and Brown.
Correct. Brown County is not in our district.
Should be Olmsted and Waseca should be added to that list too. Which would increase because I know what Olmsted is.
Yeah, instead of behind, sure.
That Waseca, well,
They're one of the lowest. Oh, no, that was.
Waseca's on there, yeah.
134, so still more to.
Is Rod no longer the sheriff there anymore?
He is,
Well, he still is.
yes.
He's been there quite a while.
Yeah,
He has.
he was there when we got elected to the state. Yeah, he's still there. That was his.
And then Kevin Torgerson with Homestead County has been there.
Same with Morgan for a while.
Yes, correct.
So you must have gotten some of these salaries since Tuesday. Some of these 26. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't think you had Wabashaw's 26 salary or Todd County's 26.
But yeah, I kind of have.
You
I don't know if it's populating.
Homestead's was 187,830 in 2025 and increased to $239. 6.5%.
What's that?
$200,039.
That's 6%, you said?
6.5%.
Yeah, hey, go ahead, Jay. It's, you can go sit. They think we're,
Well, thank you. And do you have questions? Yeah, let me know.
yeah, yeah, all right, thanks. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we move into the meeting? Meeting will be, are we going? I haven't looked at the agenda. It's 2 items.
Should we do from education and HRA before we?
I would really appreciate that.
Can we do that?
It wouldn't take so much time to.
All right, you're gonna have to do the education. No, I know enough.
It's all right. Be dangerous, buddy. Be dangerous.
You know, you have more history as far as distracted.
Yeah, I know. As we should be.
You know, dating all the way back to Amberfield,
Yes.
what we're finding out is even the loss of Amberfield, there was some money there so that we've been subsidizing this operation with that money. And now,
You're talking about Amberfield, Maine, what? The county's payment levy for Amberfield.
you go ahead, you got more history on it.
Well, this thing started many years ago, with the idea that 5 counties were gonna come together to do the HRA thing. Some of it was gonna be a voucher program where we managed HUD vouchers. The other part was properties that were owned and or built and rented with affordable housing in mind. And so when I first came on the board, the HRA owned the Amberfield apartments. But after a lawsuit, the Amberfields got built. They didn't get filled as fast as they needed to. There was a lawsuit around borrowed money for those projects in the counties. And by the time it wended its way through court, each county was responsible for a certain amount of levy money to go toward supporting the HRA, particularly the Amberfields. That the timing on that was, I don't know, 25 or 30 years. 2024 was going to be 2024, 2025 was going to be the last year that the court settlement applied. And so the the bondholders decided they were gonna sell the Amber Fields. They sold those. The Amberfield development included a couple of trailer parks too, one in Gaylord, one someplace else. Mapleton, Gaylord for sure. Anyway, that, and during this time, when the Amberfields are getting, we're going through the, can they sell it? What do we have to do? What's our liability in this? As an HRA, the longtime director there decided to retire. And she had not only been the director, but she had been doing most of the bookkeeping and accounting. So we hired a new director. She came on. She was supposed to work with the retiring director for a short period of time to kind of get the ropes. At the same time, I'm sure because of all the churn at the HRA, HUD came in to do an audit and let us know that we were not doing the bookkeeping to the standard that they would expect, despite the fact that we had clean audits for many, many, many years. So the old director's done, the new director is trying to get her feet under her. At the same time, we have the auditors coming in to basically rebuild the books from the last 3 years or 5 years, at least 3 years, to try to help us figure out what's going on. Of course, that took a long time. We haven't had solid numbers about what we knew was in accounts for 2 years. And in the last 2 months, HUD has done, they call it it's not recalculation, reclamation.
Yeah, reclamation. They estimate, the way I understand it, they estimate administrative costs by how many vouchers you're doing. And then at the end of the year, then when they go through how many vouchers you actually had, then they true it up. And we have through hoardouts, people come down here and they get their voucher and then they move back up to the city with that voucher.
Which they can do.
So then we end up losing that voucher. So anyway, when they redid that, instead of getting 30,000 a month for an admin, we got 11. So they were truing that up. And so that just put fire on, or fuel on the fire already. We already knew we were gonna have to deal with it in 26, knowing that we were gonna have shortfalls. But then this just compounded. Because it was 2 months of that.
Yes.
October, November.
Yes, and our board only meets every other month. Dave Anderson from Nicollet County has been a long time chair. He is not an elected commissioner, he's a citizen. Last meeting, we elected Marie Drentel from Nicollet County as the board chair. The executive director has been talking to board chairs for some time about her concern about where we were. But then with the changes that HUD made, as the chair said here, like pouring gasoline on a fire, all of a sudden there's not money to pay rent and there's not money to pay employees. We recently had an online meeting with, and that's why we're here, to talk about a cash call to shore this thing up, because the checking account is underwater. The meeting before that, we were looking at steps for dissolution already. Part of what we need to understand here is our stake in the vouchers is 5% of 472 vouchers. That's how many vouchers Waseca County uses. That does amount to $20-some thousand, between $20,000 and $25,000 of rental assistance that comes into Waseca County every month for people who have vouchers here through this HRA. Nicollet County and Martin County by far have the biggest stake in the HRA, and any support that we provide, the board, the HRA board agreed should come based on the number of vouchers that your county is using. And so you can see the numbers up there. Thank you.
The vouchers are not monetarily equal, correct? I mean,
No.
each voucher is,
Because each county
yes,
data also sets the right rental rates in each county, depending on what competition for housing is in each county.
how many vouchers over years can some individual receive?
Well,
And
it's
how
an
would-
ongoing voucher.
It's an ongoing
Yeah.
voucher, yes. So once you get a voucher, that voucher is yours to use either locally. And once you get a voucher, that's when you go hunting for housing.
Until when?
Yeah, so I don't
When
know,
does that-
do they have to, I would imagine annually they should be giving income.
There's a regular, because there's two housing people over there, there's a regular check back, like with everything else of what's your income, who's living with you, because, it's based on how many people are in the household. And housing vouchers often rest alongside other support that families are getting, like SNAP and those kind of things. It's the same numbers that they have to report to the HRA. And that gets reviewed at least once a year by the housing coordinators.
So if this were to be dissolved,
Mhm.
then what is the next program for the people to receive these housing vouchers then?
Well, that's part of what has to be figured out, and that's not entirely up to us because they're they're federal vouchers. Some of it is HUD deciding what organization can take these over. At this point, the executive director of this HRA, our HRA, has checked with Minnesota Valley Action Council, also with Blue Earth County and with Mankato, because they have HRAs, that their EDA that can sponsor an HRA and does and could absorb some of this. One of the reasons this didn't move faster is because at the meeting we had in November, Nicollet County at that point was doing some research to see whether they could bring that housing in-house into their Health and Human Services Department. And so we waited to take any more drastic action at that meeting because Marie said they were going to meet the next week to talk about who could manage those vouchers within the county. And so we wanted to give them decision-making time. And obviously we didn't know that HUD was going to do this reconciliation.
Do you know if Nicollet ever
I don't know what they decided.
decided?
So anyway, at this point, the HRA board said, we need to find $100,000 to get us out of the red before the end of the year. And then we need to figure this thing out after the first of the year. One housing coordinator has been laid off and was laid off almost immediately
In November.
in November.
In November, we did decide that we needed to cut staff just to get us through to figure out this solution.
Yes.
Then it brings up.
At this last meeting, the executive director came to us and said, we have to keep at least one of the housing coordinators on for at least 32 hours because there's 472 vouchers that need to be. The paperwork needs to be done, so these people keep getting rent support and they need somebody to report to and do all that.
472 vouchers across the whole HR.
Yes,
And there was 2 people monitoring that, and now there's 1.
yes, at less hours. Are going to
So,
be.
but this person, okay, no, you.
Well, that confuses me and I've seen the 400 and some, but up on the board, it just showed 700 and some vouchers.
Yes, and I don't know why that is, but our last report,
Yeah.
our last report of vouchers used was
Is it
472.
Is it that many that it ported out?
This just.
They could be allocated that way.
497 now. Okay, so that's the newest numbers, because it goes up and down depending on how many port outs there are. The whatever 721 might be how many are available, but you have to have enough housing program assistance. No, housing assistance, whatever they call it, money that pays rents. You have to have enough HAP to pay rents. When you run out of HAP, you can't give out any more vouchers, and that's part of our problem too. Is there's not housing assistance money to rent more vouchers, and the more vouchers you rent, the more admin money you get.
My question is, they could, if individuals get a voucher within our HRA, why do we have to allow that to go to another, report it out, is that what you
It's
call
a federal program, and that's the way the federal program works.
It's a really botched system.
You cannot keep people from porting out. It is against.
And when they poured out with that voucher, their rents are higher in the cities. But they can get the vouchers down here easier than up there, is the way I take it.
Yes,
So they get it, go back up there, and then that's what depletes your HAP money, is because then you've got higher rents up there.
That's a broken system.
That's a broken system, that's right.
it is. It is. You are right.
That just isn't,
Once the HRA up there has room to take on that voucher, because there's limitations, I don't quite understand it all, but you can get that HRA to sometimes take over those vouchers,
It's called
that
absorbing.
absorbing. And then that frees up some vouchers for you again.
that makes me kind of red the backside, because we're paying taxpayer money to live for people that don't even live in our area.
Yes.
So
It's federal money.
it's federal, so you're sending it.
Yeah, but is this federal money we're gonna have to give them coming up?
No.
No,
That's no, I get it there.
which is one of the reasons why 3 out of the 5 counties here that have a smaller stake in this are anxious to get the heck out of Dodge. Martin County has already, my understanding, already arranged that who's taking them over. They've already got that figured out.
Yeah, and that's the difference of these two numbers.
Yes.
Just to point that out. Martin isn't on this list
Oh.
here.
There you go.
They are on the cleanup, one of the invoice, part of this cash call,
Okay,
but their numbers are just removed from the
okay,
notification. Because
We're
we're
gonna-
gonna have plans in place.
okay. That makes sense.
So there's,
We're gonna need to adjourn this and then I'll talk about it more.
Sure.
Yeah, but I think it's guys a little more formal.
Yeah.
Administrative. All right, we'll adjourn the work session and get back to the few. Okay. Thank you. Skirts. Russell.
Yeah, that too.
Did you use 50 pounds of sugar? Nothing but peanut butter. Wow, that's good stuff. This isn't Cindy, this is Brad.
No, that's it.
Special meeting of the Waseca County Commissioners to order. Everyone silence their cell phones.
Play like allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will, first item on the agenda is the HRA appropriation. Is that appropriation, amount somewhere?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it is $5,000. It does say Nicollet County down in this description, which is a lie. Yeah, so as was discussed in the work session, and I'm sure can afford some additional discussion here. Thank you, Commissioner Mulder, for walking through the history. Part of the conversation is the program specific elements, but those are the things that we don't have a lot of control over. Just our point of clarity, when we're talking about vouchers, the HCBs are not something that Mid Prairie touches at all. So remove that from your head. If you're thinking about some crossover there, the only thing they really touch through the Owatonna HRA are these bridge vouchers, which are a temporary solution, which has to do with a permanent or long-term illness, mental illness. Nothing to do with HCB programming. So as was mentioned, these vouchers have nearly indefinite term once approved. There is portability that is allowed that can take you literally anywhere in the country. With that same indefinite approval, assuming you continue to qualify and follow the program rules. So those aren't problems we're going to solve in and of themselves. Really what we're trying to figure out now is, one, will the county approve a one-time cash amount of $5,000 to shore up the HRA accounts for the end of the year? That need is immediate. There is current overdrawn fees in the checking account that the bank has been graciously waiting upon. At some point in time, that graciousness will end for that financial institution. So it is not an estimated, oh, we're probably going to need this. There's a little bit of that, but there's also a very immediate real need of these funds in a short amount of time. Even so, it's here. It's time we're chatting. What form that payment could be delivered in is up for debate. We have the ability to wire our funds. We have the ability to cut a check. I'm not sure what the most appropriate timing is in that regard at this point in time. And the second item is what is then the future of the HRA and the future of the management of those HCB vouchers on behalf of Waseca County. A couple of potential organizations were mentioned as well, and it ties into this proposed. This is just a proposed resolution that you see on the screen right now that was sent from the HRA, and somewhat, refers to these two organizations as potential hosts. I don't love that. That's something we would show up before we brought that to you for final approval. Likely the first meeting in January, if things can turn around quickly. Yes, sir.
Why do you say you don't love that? Is it?
Because I don't like open-ended resolutions. So we wouldn't have an and or and give, kind of flexibility within the resolution. We want to know exactly what's happening with the program.
It's not these two organizations that you have angst over, it's.
Right, yes. Good point of clarification. Yeah, not because I have concern with these organizations, just we want the resolution to actually be intentional in its creation and spell out specifically, here's how it's working. Yeah, that's the angst there.
I would mention as well, the effective date of transfer, you'll notice in the sample resolution is July 1. That comes from HUD. So my concerns going forward that I want to make sure the whole board knows is the calendar of how this happens is not entirely up to us. It's entirely up to HUD. The executive director has been in conversation with both local and regional HUD folks, trying to get this thing to move faster than July 1st. That's one thing. But our power to decide on timing is negligible. Second, this is an immediate cash call for an immediate situation. Depending on what happens, I would not be surprised to see this come before us again, looking for more investment just to get this thing dissolved. Right now, as of the 1st of January, there will be a half-time executive director, a half-time administrative assistant, and one housing coordinator with reduced hours to kind of limp this thing along until we can figure out what's next. And that was a recommendation from the executive director, which I think cutting your own job in half, I thought that was a pretty brave move. Obviously my other concern is we do have a bunch of rent that gets paid in Waseca County every month for people who need it. And we don't want to just throw our hands up and say, never mind, we're done doing this. Because we have people who need it and qualify for this assistance and we want them to continue to get it. So part of my caution is we do have to keep that in mind. And like I said, it amounts every month to between $20,000 and $25,000.
And that would continue to happen,
Provided we
have an organization like this take them over, or
Yes.
Minnesota Valley Action Council.
yes,
To me, correct me if I'm wrong, for these organizations that are already doing some of this, if they can absorb the weight without increasing staff, it's only beneficial to their bottom line, correct? Because they're gonna be getting more administrative money.
yes. Or when do they get the tipping point where they absorb enough that they add
Right.
staff?
That's why I think the two are on there, right? Because they don't know how much each organization will be able to absorb.
And part of what I and I haven't asked Jessica about the discussion she's had with these different organizations. We're already a member of the Minnesota Valley Action Council, and they do some housing. I don't know if they have the ability to do this for us, but it seems to me that would be a more natural fit because we're already members there. We are not, we would have to be members in either Mankato Economic Development Authority or Blue Earth County EDA. Somehow we would have to contract with them, or I don't know what that would look like. But it seems to me that Minvac is a more natural fit, but I don't know if they have the ability to do that. So that would be one question that I would ask that staff be thinking about. Because ultimately, this is a sample resolution. Each county will do their own resolution. And each county is trying to figure out what's going to work best for them, depending on how many vouchers they have and how much money comes every month.
That we talked about in the work session, where people were coming down possibly from the metro and getting these vouchers and going back.
They have to live here first before they can get a voucher.
But why would we even want to mess with this on our own?
Because we have a bunch of people here in Waseca County who aren't going back up to the metro. They are residents here of our county and they get this help.
But it seems that they have to live here for a brief time prior to, but it seems like almost open enrollment. You're able to go where you want, depending on once you've got a voucher.
You can,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that every county's population of people who are getting help are rotating like that. I am quite convinced and that the folks most of the folks that are getting help here in Waseca County are people that live here and have lived here for a time and continue to live here and will continue to live here. And we can get more data about family breakdowns and number of kids and parents and that kind of stuff. I have seen that data before, but it's old data now. But the amount of churn of vouchers leaving Waseca County, I do not believe is high. For one thing, because we don't have the housing where they can get a voucher and find a place to live here anyway. Housing is short. We know that it's hard to find housing in Waseca County. Mankato, on the other hand, Blue Earth County and Nicollet County, they've been building housing. And so there's more possibility for churn there because there's more units available.
Mr. Chair.
If we give this, we go up with this $5,000, will they be back in a month saying we're still back? Or can you give us some more money?
Absolutely.
Stuff it might be. But what I was gonna ask too is, okay, so we're down to 3 employees. Do we need to give notice to get out of that building? That's a big part of the expense.
And the building is up for sale.
Yeah, but I think there must be a 60-day clause. I don't know if they've given any notice yet.
That would take board action.
Yeah, it hasn't come before us yet. But those are things we gotta keep continuing to try to reduce. And it all comes down to HUD's decision. We've made an appeal to move this forward before July 1st. Otherwise, if they refuse, we could be stuck trying to muddle our way through 6 months, right?
Well, my vision of how this could work is because each of the counties, the request has been made by the HRA board that each of the counties bring back a resolution by the end of January, because in order to even apply to HUD to dissolve this, they need those resolutions. We waited until the end of January to ask for those resolutions to give counties time to explore where their vouchers might land. In my mind, if every county is doing that due diligence in very quick fashion, and we can do some vetting along with the executive director of the HRA to figure out where it would be best for us to land or how it's best for us to exit. We do that, we get our resolution there by the end of January. If every county has a place where those vouchers can land, I could see a transition where those organizations are starting to take on that work and the HRA ends up with quarter time person kind of mopping things up for the last few months. Just to close things out. That would be my hope.
So we're talking about $5,000.
Right
And
now.
the original appropriation at the end of this year would have been $1,525. Was that the original amount? Okay. So it's gonna be 5 even and not 65.25.
The other part has already been paid. The 15,
The 15.25 was paid.
and that was, but that was due from 20. That was all the counties were giving in proportion appropriating earlier. That was part of our regular appropriation for the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that wasn't held out.
No,
It wasn't held out. Okay.
First, and now that I think the executive director understands better where they are in their financials. They got into trouble because they thought this HUD money was coming in, this 30,000 each month. And it surprised them. So then they ended up with outstanding checks with not money in the bank. Now we know where we're at and they better not be writing checks. So it isn't this urgent to get the money to the bank. You know, right now we're in an urgency situation, but they've been told that that needs to be kept track of better so that they don't go overdrawn.
mhm.
So whether the building has to wait for their rent or whether some people have to wait for a paycheck, that's the way it's gotta be. We can't go overdrawn.
So it was staff and the building that these checks were being written.
Well, it was administrative costs, wasn't it? Or was it, yeah, it was,
Some of it was, some of it is
or is it voucher money?
voucher money. Which is, and that's part of the problem too, that half, the voucher money,
But that's a different account.
it is, but it all ends up coming out of that general checking account. Because that's where all the checks get written out of.
But then they transfer into there for the half. money.
Yes, but they didn't have any HAP money to move there. So they are negative on HAP right now, which is one of the concerns is that
What account did they have that they had?
$100,000 in that they can't use.
Yes. Which,
Escrow.
that's the escrow.
One of the housing programs that we run over there, and there's 4 of them, I believe. One of the housing programs, people have the opportunity to take part in a specialized program where they take part of their money, their own money that gets matched. It goes into a savings account, and when they graduate from the program, then they have a chunk of money. It can be $5,000, it can be $20,000. That they can then put as a down payment on a house or buy a car. And it's a pretty intensive program where they have, where they meet regularly with staff to work on what their financial goals are, their personal goals, and it helps set them up to then get off the program and stay off the program. But that there's escrow money there, but that's client money. And
Yeah, that's still.
the temptation was, oh, we'll just use the escrow money for now, but administration was told very clearly, you can't touch that money. You'll be in a bit more trouble.
Now we pass this resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the 5,000 appropriation. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Full of that.
And then we will go on to number 3, establishing sheriff salary for 2026.
Things are gonna get up.
If you wanted to. Yeah, we just got out of the work session, talked through the sheriff going to last Tuesday. when we met last Friday, I guess Dee and I, knowing the reluctance of the board at that 8.5%, we would come back with the suggestion of 7%. It's like 142 something.
142,684.50.
Do that again.
142,684.50.
Yep.
We bring this forward because as we look at that, at the comparable counties and, at what the comparable counties were in 25 and where our sheriff is in 25 and where those numbers are going for 26. I don't know what the math would be, but if, I don't know. Well, let's see. Yeah, that's adding 5% to the 137.
Yeah.
So we're not going that far, but we want to go.
2%, the extra 2% would get us closer to the average.
Yeah.
Assuming 5% across the board.
Yeah, this methodology is where the originally 0.56% came from, just as a reminder. Just trying to account for current year and then adjustments to the current year data.
So, I would look to the board for what they want to do.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So that is that's the recommendation from the subcommittee then.
Right.
Okay. Do you foresee, would you like to see the we talked about in the work session, the more transparency. The subcommittee meeting more often with the sheriff.
That was talked about quite a bit as far as, like our P and Z committee, we've got a schedule.
Right.
We don't always hit that date, but at least it's on the schedule.
So
It's something that you put in your schedule. So at least you get those meetings more often.
especially with the Justice Center coming up.
Right.
That has to be, the subcommittee and the sheriff has to be held accountable for those meetings to bring information back to the board, correct?
That's,
Okay. And then you talked about possibly more updates from the sheriff during the county board meetings.
that's possibly a placeholder, in the agenda.
Okay.
At least where he could come with, if there's information. Some meetings, every 2 weeks, we don't expect them to have a big report or anything, but.
Unless Jay wants to do a big report.
10 pages.
Yeah.
I love to talk in front of you.
I'll do the spell check.
If we had updates from the sheriff once a month, like HR, it's just even if it's a sheet of activity of what's happening, it doesn't have to be a full blown, it's kind of some numbers. If you can't make it, if there's something else going on. I think that would be very helpful, I think, on the board. How's the fleet work, what's happening on the lakes, you know, what's going on countywide, you know, as far as traffic activities and individuals not doing what they're supposed to do, not deputies, bad people.
Okay. I know it's always difficult to go beyond kind of what staff is getting.
But that would be my one concern, is that everybody else got the 5, and I'm just, I mean, we really justifying that, the other 2% on there. You know, are you anticipating that next year, the same with the county turning up another 5?
You know, I don't think we can, nothing was talked about with the sheriff as far as going beyond this year. I think it's still a negotiating piece. You know, our biggest reason for going beyond the 5% was that he is on the lower side of the average, where the county attorney is over a touch over. And I shouldn't even have said that, because we kind of established that attorney and sheriff is different. You know, we don't like to compare.
I understand that, but we're talking about elected individuals.
Right. So that's why it kind of throws it in the same pot. I wouldn't have any issue justifying the 7% to staff or whatever, just because of the numbers. If that's a concern, I guess. I mean, I feel comfortable with that, but I'm just one vote here.
So you're looking for
I'm looking for a motion. I'm not, it's a suggestion by the labor committee, but
Is it a suggestion or a recommendation?
recommendation. Yeah.
I'll make that motion, 7%.
I'll second.
Okay. Then moving second to increase the sheriff's salary by 7%. Put us at the 142,684.50. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair. I would also agree with the 142,684, and I would agree with the conversation of the more transparency. All the things that were talked about in the session.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's what I would like to see. That's what I heard this morning, and that's what I've been hearing. And if that moves forward with the 142, then I'm perfectly happy,
Comfortable with that?
comfortable.
Perfect. Another discussion?
I had to, Jay and I met yesterday and had discussion over a lot of things. And some of that was the transparency and talking with staff, and working with HR, different areas that I think HR would be able to pull some ideas that would be.
Good. Excellent. All right, if that's all the discussion, I would look for the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we would, that's all on the agenda. Is there any update from the administrator on anything else before the end of the year? We're all happy and fat and happy.
Yeah, as far as I know. Hoping for the best. Hope you all have a lovely Christmas and are able to relax and get a little bit of reprieve. So, nothing else that I specifically need to bring to your attention today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the chair.
Yeah, I ordered books for everybody.
Okay, perfect.
Here next week.
All right.
Nice.
Did you?
I did.
Good for you.
And then, yeah, it sounds like we're gonna have good weather, traveling should be good. I hope everyone stays safe and has a wonderful holiday. I would look, if nothing else, so moved. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Mulder. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.